The Nuts and Bolts of Writing, Season 2, a podcast where we talk about literature, the ins and outs of writing, and how to actually start writing. Hi, everyone. I'm Tete DePunk, one of the hosts of The Nuts and Bolts of Writing. Today, I will be interviewing the electrifying poet and author, Indranil Ghosh, who has submitted his collection of respective poems to issue 2, 3, and 5 of our literary zine, The Unconventional Courier. His collection of evocative and striking works are often inspired by arresting modern artistic masterpieces by 20th century greats such as Rene, Magritte, and Edvard Munch. I've provided links to all of his respective works in the description. Indranil Ghosh is a Ph.D. student in applied mathematics from India, currently living in New Zealand. Highly inspired by Nirvana, Led Zeppelin, and Robert Frost, whenever he's not working, one may find him either reading classic poems or listening to music from the 70s and 80s. His poems appear in the Aphelion webzine, The Unconventional Courier, Roi Faineant Literary Press, and many more. You can follow Indranil Ghosh on Twitter and Instagram at IndraGhosh314. Hello, Indranil. How are you? Welcome to the show. We're thrilled to have you here.
Hi, Tete. I'm good. I'm good. I am doing good now. It's summer, and yeah, it's pretty chill out here. And what about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm doing good. We're starting to get into spring up here in the Northeast. I'm already starting to see, green blades of grass. So
Oh, that's
I'm
good.
really can't wait for spring. So speaking of, the birth of things and how things get set into motion just like spring,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, what first inspired you to write poetry? Was that something you always had, or was it sort of a cataclysm that led you to want to create poetry and think of poetry?
There was actually a catalyst. So it has always been my dad. So like while growing up, I saw him write and perform poems, like poetry in events and everything. But he actually never published. Because like publication was seen as something which only those elite people do back in those days.
Right.
But like I always wondered like how it will feel to get like write poetry and get published. So when I came to New Zealand like 2 years back, like I wanted to like see how it will like I wanted to have that experience myself. So I never actually wrote poetry in English before when I was in my country. I wrote sometimes, like even with my dad, but mostly in my mother language, which is Bengali. And but after coming to New Zealand, I thought like, well, let's give it a try. Like, why not write poetry? Like, I have nothing to lose, like, right? If it doesn't get published, and you learn in the process. So what I did was like I started writing in English, and fortunately, uh, like the unconventional courier, like journals like Unconventional Courier, they gave me a platform for my poem, and I'm really, really like grateful for that. So yeah, it's been my dad actually. He's the inspiration. Yeah,
That is absolutely, how do I say that? That is so deep, that is so connected, and that is wonderful to hear that there is that connection between that kind of passion for poetry, the sort of understanding for it, it's almost like it's a bit sort of like it's woven within the soul, so to speak, you
yeah,
know.
you're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and we're absolutely, like I said, we're absolutely honored to have you in the
Thank you.
Unconventional Courier. The door is always open. Your poetry embodies a lot of what, we seek at the Unconventional Courier. And, I think that's the wonderful thing about the online writing community, because you get to reach an audience, you can get published. And I think it eradicates a lot of barriers
Yeah.
for people who want to express and get their work out there and have their voice out there. So we're very honored that you found us, that you chose to reach out to us. And as I said, door is always
Thank
open
you.
for you. Yeah, absolutely. And um I
I
also wanted to ask, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I just wanted to mention like that Twitter is actually a very good platform for this. Like I came across your page when I was like going through some of the poetry that's been published in good journals, and they have this Twitter accounts, and somehow Twitter recommended me to your page, and I'm so glad that I found you. It was really good. Yeah,
Oh,
it was a
we're
great.
so, I mean, I was blown by Twitter, like what it could do and the people it's
Yeah,
connected to. And
yeah,
we're so glad you found us through that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And, and we're always trying to, push ourselves out there because we want people to open up and submit, because, there's some platforms that, may not be able to accept or, take, but we want to give, I mean, I guess that's why we called ourselves the Unconventional Courier, because we're kind
yeah.
of a courier and we're very unconventional.
I absolutely love the name. It's so cool. Yeah, yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah,
And we always want to live up to our name, and we're so honored to have awesome authors and poets like yourself.
yeah.
That's the backbone, that's the heart of the whole thing. Oh, I guess the next question, since we're talking about what the catalyst was for poetry, how did you, so there's sort of an element within the poems that you've had published with us, and that's sort of the drawing inspiration from, art pieces or, artworks themselves. So when you were writing these poems, how did you draw inspiration from art to create your striking poems?
So for some time now, like I somehow came across, so I watched this YouTube documentary on surrealism. So it was so random. I still remember the day when I did that. I was sitting in my tea room and I was going through some, art videos, and this particular YouTube video was on the birth of surrealism and how it was like it evolved from that like Dadaism, and
Right, right.
that inspired me a lot. Like I'm very much into something which is like I myself want to run away from reality and like be somewhere where it's a dreamland, like a Neverland kind of thing, you know. And
Oh, I know what you mean.
surrealism is exactly that, right? So I found a comfort in that. So when I was watching the video, it gave me a lot of references, like the work of Andre Breton, and like the work of Rene Magritte, and like Remedios Varo. So I started researching these artists, and then I came across some of the like paintings by Remedios Varo and like Rene Magritte. For example, the one like one of my poems is based on the Lovers Too by Rene Magritte. And if you
Yes.
like, if someone has the opportunity to go through the like painting, you will see that at least for me, when I stare at the painting of Rene Magritte, like of the Lovers Too by Rene Magritte, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable and tense, like in a good way. I'm not saying in a bad way, but in a good way.
In a good
So
way.
like, yeah, like it wakes something up, inside the brain and my heart. So I just want to like calculate that down on my paper with a pen. So so that's been always my inspiration. So like some of the paintings were even by Remedios Varo. So like when you look at the picture at the first instance, it will make no sense to you. But if you like just stare at it and like try to make sense out of it, like depending on what kind of person you are, you will interpret it in a like you will have your own perception. You will have your own what to say, like imagination out of the painting. So I I like to do that by myself. You know what I mean? Like I just stare at the picture, I just stare at the painting, and I just write anything that comes to my mind at that point. So it's very random, but it's not. So yeah,
That
you know what I
that's a
mean?
beautiful, like that's so amazing to draw inspiration from, visual imagery like that. And you're
Yeah,
right. The more you stare at a painting, the more you become drawn in its immersion, and you draw your own interpretation based on
yeah,
your reaction to it.
yeah. For
Yeah.
example, this as I was mentioning, like the lovers too, like you know, like I asked myself when I wrote that after poetry, after like the lovers too, I asked myself like what would I do if I were in that position of that human being with the shrouds on and like two persons in a very intimate, uh, like they're very close to each other and there is some kind of love being portrayed, but they have shrouds on their face. Like, that makes me very uncomfortable. Like, what would I do? I would ask some random questions to the other person. That made me think about the all the questions in the poetry that I wrote. So yeah, yeah,
That's amazing. And you're right. Sometimes when you're looking at an artwork, you're asking yourself questions, and you're trying to reason, why it's there, who and what, all the W questions.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's amazing. Would you say a certain art style does that, or is it just something like any kind of painting? It just has to like just strike you when you see it.
For me, it's like the surrealist paintings. I have actually like looked into other kind of paintings, like abstract paintings and like more realistic paintings. I would say that they don't usually uh, like excite me in that way how surrealism does. But
Right.
it's it's a me thing, like it can vary from people to people. So but for me the thing that I want out of my brain is only possible with surrealist paintings. So yeah,
That makes a lot of sense. I think
yeah,
surrealism, there's a lot that it evokes in the human mind, and it,
yeah,
it and it would evoke more. I mean, like you said, depending on what kind of person you are, sometimes for some people a certain art style speaks to them more. And I think it's amazing how you draw that from surrealism, and you're able to articulate and translate that, from your own perception, how you react to it. It's so crystal clear, and just like it's very piercing in your poetry. And that was I think the first one I had seen when we were looking at submissions was your poem after the lovers too. And that was indeed a very striking poem. And when I looked up the image to see what inspired it, it all suddenly all clicked when I saw the poem, right
yeah,
beside the painting.
yeah.
Yeah. And I did want to ask, so we were sort of touching on that. So when you first see an artwork, do you form the idea of a concept or emotion at first, or does that take a long time? And are you the sort of person you jot down the ideas as soon as you see it, or does it take time to kind of like percolate, kind of like takes time to develop in your mind before you set to like create and finish the poem?
I think I usually take some time, but it's not usually a long time. So what happens is like I first stare at the painting and like uh, whatever comes to my mind at that particular point, I just start jotting them down, even if they are like not in a very like flowing way, like the way that I would want the poem to be published in its final form. It doesn't need to be that way at first, but I just jot down everything that comes to my mind at that point. Like whatever random thoughts are coming at my mind at that from like just staring at the picture, I just start jotting them down, and then I work on like making like giving that particular poem a structure. So the whole process usually takes around like what like 4 to 5 hours, I would say. So is that a long time? I'm not sure. Like,
I
yeah,
don't think there's really a long or a short time when it comes to
yeah,
creating. I
yeah,
mean, it all depends on, and it all depends. I mean, the main goal is the end product. It's when you've created
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I think it's such a sound way to work, and I think it's great how you let that develop and how you work on it. And your poetry definitely shows a lot of thought and care into your craft. I mean, I definitely get that energy with
Yeah.
how you place the words. It's almost like a painting itself, or a well-featured sculpture, so to speak.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's really such a sweet thing to say.
Oh,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, you were one of the first striking poets that, we had when we were, starting out. And I could easily see those images as soon as I saw the paintings they were inspired by. And it's like you yourself were sort of drawing us into the world of that painting.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're welcome. Um, I did want to say, so I guess another thing would be, we mentioned about how you got into poetry, and how, the artists that also inspired you. Are there other poets or particular artists besides the ones that you've referenced and mentioned that inspire you? And how would you say they inspire you? And are any of them like really very different than the work that you do or the work that, you like?
Yeah, so after coming to New Zealand, I discovered this poetess. Her name is Flora Adcock. I think she has an Irish background, but like she's like now residing in New Zealand. So
Oh.
her works, like I discovered her like some of her books in like my university library. So I was sitting one day and like just going through some of the works. What I love about her works is like they usually have some dark theme, and it's like there is a there is an unexpected twist at the end, like Saki, like when I was like in my high school, I absolutely loved reading Saki. I think his real name is H. H. Munro, if I'm not wrong. Am I right?
Mm.
Can it, I don't know. Like I think Saki is H.H. Munro, but anyhow, like Saki's work had a lot of dark twists at the end. So I love that element in any kind of work. So when I was going through some of Adcock's work, I discovered that, and like it's really good. So yeah, so she's there, and then there is this poet whom I follow also in Twitter. I think he's a very famous uh, poet. His name is Jose Hernandez Diaz, I guess. Like he's a
Oh, yes. Yes.
yeah,
I'm familiar with his work. Yes.
yeah, he's also a surrealist poet. So I absolutely love his work. So he's awesome. So he
Yes.
yeah, and like growing up, I also loved Robert Frost a lot. Like uh, the Road Not Taken, right?
Yes. Oh
Like
my
no
gosh,
one
yes.
there is no one who doesn't love uh like the road not taken, right? It's such a
No,
beautiful thing.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's so good.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
finally, I think I also talked about this artist in one of the talking heads. He's from my place. Like his name is Satyajit Ray. He's
Yes.
uh like I think he received a lot of international awards for his he was a director too. He received a lot of awards for his direction in like films and all. So his works, like he usually used to write for children, but I think no matter what your age is, like you will love his works, and I would definitely recommend that book to you. You would love his work. So there is an English version to the Bengali, like the original work that he published. It's called 101 Short Stories. So I would not say that he was a surrealist, but there was an element of surrealism in his work. So growing up, like as a child, when I read that, it opened up my mind a lot. So like, I think his work has had a lot of influence on my character. So yeah, I absolutely love his work. So yeah, I would
I
definitely recommend that to anyone. Yeah,
definitely checking him
yeah,
out. And I understand that connection with, authors from, childhood and youth. There's certainly authors that had an impact on me. And like you said, the kind of the books that you read when you grow up, they do have an impact on one's character. And I understand that. I've had that
yeah,
same feeling of effect with, at least two authors. And I know exactly what you mean. Like,
yeah.
for me, it was, authors such as, Avi and, Karen Cushman, because their works just really
Oh,
spoke to me as a kid.
I would check them out. Karen Kushner.
Yes, Karen Cushman. It's Cushman with a C. And she,
Okay,
yeah,
got
she
it.
mostly writes about like young people growing up during, times like mostly like focusing on medieval times, like what it would be like to be a kid growing up during like a tumultuous time period of that
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Good, that's good.
Yeah,
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 definitely.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And it was awesome to hear about, the author you just referenced, especially with the, 100 101 short stories.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
I did remember you referenced that on Talking Heads, and I will definitely be checking out the translated version,
yeah.
of his work. I will definitely will. And I guess that moves us on to our next topic. So, you've mentioned that musical artists also inspire you. How does their work inspire you? And is there a difference between how the musical artists inspire you versus the visual artists that inspire you?
I think for me, uh, the only inspiration that I draw from music is the motivation to create. I would love to find some musical artists whose work is more like towards surrealism, but I haven't found any. I hope to find some in the future, but I would say that there is not like musical artists by themselves that don't like motivate me the way I get motivated from paintings and poetry. You know what I mean?
Right. I know what you
Yeah,
mean. I know what you mean. It's a
yeah,
different, it's like they can kind of provide the energy or the mood, but
yeah,
not
yeah.
necessarily the foundation for an
No,
like not a
exactly.
visual. It's not a
Yeah,
visual. It's not something you can translate or something you
yeah,
can put into words.
yeah. Like, like music for me is like a getaway from all the stress. Like I would love to consider music as something which saves me every time I am like completely messed up in my head. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I know what you
yeah,
mean. Music
yeah,
for me, it's the same thing. I mean, music for me,
yeah,
a lot of times too, I'll seek out music that has really good, strong lyrics because,
yeah,
if one listens to their lyrics very carefully,
mm,
there are just some bands or artists out there that are just they themselves are poets, and it's just that striking power of those lyrics that can really hit, not just only the music, but the lyrics themselves standing by themselves are also pretty powerful, but they are hard to find. Like it's sort of
yeah.
a diamond in the sea of charcoal,
Exactly. Yeah, in that respect, I would like want to mention one of the artists. Like I absolutely love Nirvana. So Kurt Cobain for me, like his vision during that time was very, progressive in that manner. Is that the right term to use? I'm not sure. But yeah, what I mean is like he was very, what to say, like he was
very
against.
very visionary.
Very visionary. Yeah, he was against all kind of oppressions that like the minority group uh, face in our world. Like his works were a little bit inspired by those. Like for one of the examples is like a heart-shaped box. I love the song because like if you look into the lyrics, you can interpret it in any way. But like he wrote that like song to address the difficulties that were being faced by patients of cancer, you know,
Right.
and
Exactly.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful thing. Like his lyrics is like, oh my God, I don't know. Like whenever I listen to Kurt Cobain, I'm like in a completely different dimension. I'm flying in a completely different dimension. Like he's awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah, he is there. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Kurt Cobain was such an icon, and
yeah,
also just someone who remained so genuine to his craft. And,
exactly.
I mean, when we think of Nirvana, not only do we think about the music itself, which just kind of sends you into a place of transcending,
Yeah,
but, many of the songs of his contained very powerful lyrics that didn't need to overcomplicate itself with the music, but it just hit the right vibe, and it's timeless. Like, you don't have to be a kid from the 90s to enjoy it. You can be at any time, any place, and it just hits that, like, that little, that kind of chord within the soul, whether you're
exactly.
sad,
Yeah,
depressed, angry, or whether you're just thinking something from a deeper perspective than what most people would think about it.
yeah, yeah, you're right. Oh my God, he's brilliant. I just wish that he lived longer.
That's
Yeah,
true. That's the sad thing,
yeah,
unfortunately, he had to battle so many things, and
yeah.
the battle kind of overtook him, and it's a sad thing. And I understand about that. I've had, I want to say, out of all the sea of artists out there, I can probably only think of maybe three bands that, for me, hold the honorary title of just being so good that you're blown away that they actually exist. Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
we are blessed with this good music, these good
Yeah.
lyrics. Um,
May I ask
yeah.
which bands are those? Like,
Oh, so
would
oh
be
yeah,
nice
so
to-
the first band would be, they're kind of indie, although they're more heartland now.
yeah.
They're called The Killers.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so a lot of people only know their first album, Hot Fuss, which I guess to some people was their strongest album, but all the albums that came
Hmm.
after that I felt were really strong. The lyrics, particularly of their front man, Brandon Flowers, always blows me away. They speak a
Hmm.
lot to, like, especially a lot of experiences I've had. Um, it's just a mind-blowing band. I'm so glad they exist. Their music helped me through a lot of periods of my life, still do.
Isn't
Another
that
band. Yeah,
beautiful? Like, if like a song helping us out, like through all the difficulties in life, it's such a good feeling, Like,
it
I'm really,
is.
yeah,
It's just like the
yeah,
the healing quality of music. And
yeah.
yeah, and I guess the next band would, they're only known for one song from the 80s. It's a band from Norway called Aha. And but the rest of their catalog is mind-blowing. They
Hmm.
just recently dropped another album. So there's like 40 years and they're still going strong.
Oh, good.
Yes, yeah, they so their most recent album was True North, but so many of their albums after their first album was just very strong, very, very evocative, very emotionally tied. And then I think the third band would be this Soviet red wave Russian band called Kino. And Kino was kind of like, in many ways, a lot of people considered them kind of like the Russian version of Nirvana. And their
Oh,
frontman, Victor Soy, was kind of like considered the Russian Kurt Cobain. And unfortunately, like Cobain, Soy's life ended short. What happened was, Soy had fallen asleep behind the wheel. He was driving to go fishing, and he collided with a bus, and he died at age 28. You know, it was so sad, and it's kind of
yeah.
like an iconic hero for many, Russian slash Soviet youth at the time. And he's still an
Hmm.
icon, and he's but his lyrics and the music, especially when you read the translations, are just so beautiful, raw, and evocative. I think one of the most beautiful songs that Kino with Soy's talent did was one called Silent Night, or in the original Russian, Spokojnej Noc. And it's
Hmm.
just, if you ever have a chance to listen to it, it's more mind-blowing when you listen to it late at night. It's just really mind-blowing.
Okay, I found it. I found the page. Wow, I would definitely gonna listen to this. Wow, thank you.
No, you're very welcome. Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's the beauty of art in all of its forms and, mediums, media,
yeah.
so to speak. And I guess that ties into um the final question. How do you put the emotions and thoughts of the figures in your poems into words? Like many of your poems feature a figure or a character. How do you understand their emotions, and how do you put that all together, the emotions and thoughts? How do you put that all into words?
Yeah, so I'll give one example. So the one of the recent poems that I published with the Unconventional Courier was about this tattooism that the hummingbird, like the hummingbird gets a tattoo, right? So yeah,
Right.
so it was like a portrayal of what I was going through. So like tattooism in my culture is seen as a taboo in one way. My culture, in the sense, like my background, like my family is Hindu in terms of religion, but I don't have any religion, and getting a tattoo is actually seen as a, as I said, like a taboo. So it's kind of a like self, what to say, like discovery for me. And
Right.
I wanted to, like, when I wrote about the hummingbird, I wanted to portray like the impossibilities that someone has to go through in life. So it's really impossible for a hummingbird to get something painted on itself, right? Something drawn, like
On its feather,
on
so to speak. Yeah,
on its
because it's a
feather.
bird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like it's a similar feeling like me. It was considered as almost impossible for me, until and unless I went to the tattoo parlor and got a tattoo. Even with piercings. So that's what that's what makes me come up with all the figures, and like the impossibilities in the poems, like in the poetries. And also, like, it had a friend, a kiwi bird, which uh, ultimately learns to fly, which is completely impossible, right? A kiwi bird doesn't have a
Doesn't
wing
have
to fly.
wings,
Yeah,
right?
it
Doesn't
doesn't fly.
physically have wings. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's all about the impossibilities, and like uh, how it would be I like through the kiwi bird and its ability to fly. I wanted to portray like how, like, nothing is impossible as long as you put all your uh, all your focus on it in some way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
There has to be that strong will, that
yeah,
resolution to get
yeah,
get to that goal, get it done,
yeah,
and defy all your detractors, even if your detractor is just your own doubt, at
yeah,
times.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I absolutely love your like choice of words. I'm learning so much today. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm learning a lot from you as well. There's a lot to
yeah,
learn from not only your energy, but the way you see the world, the way you see imagery. It's definitely given me a new appreciation for
thank
visual
you, thank you.
imagery, but also learning to understand things through, you know, the bigger picture, but also the bigger picture within the small detail that a lot of people neglect. And then
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
kind of like a from how you've described it, that's kind of a hallmark of surrealism, because most of the time we'll walk by something, we won't notice that unusually shaped rock or that broken bench, but there can be such an important message or something within that feature there.
exactly. Yeah, yep, yep, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess last but not least, do you have anything, like, any more, like, is there anything planned for the future, like more poems
Uh,
based on visuals, or what plans do you have for the future?
I actually have like, I don't know how successful I will be, but I want to publish a chapbook, which is like, I don't know how which publisher will accept me or not, like whether someone will accept me or not. So all the poems that I published, till now, there are some 11 to 12 poems that I want to bring together as a collection and like submit to a publisher to publish it as a chapbook. So that's the like next plan that I have. But in terms of creating new poetry, I am actually a little bit because this is my last year of what to say, like last year of Ph.D. and I have to complete my thesis. So I'm little bit in a halt right now in creating new poetry. So, but that's the next project that I have, like publishing a chapbook.
That's
Yeah,
that's definitely a very doable goal. I know that you can
yeah,
definitely do it. I mean, we ourselves we're sort of doing our own mini publishing thing, like through KDP. You know,
yeah.
we did
Ah,
like an
yeah.
anthology. Yeah, yeah, we did an hard, so we have that available, you know, on Amazon. But I definitely, you know, I wish you all the best with the chapbook. If you
Thank
do
you.
need any kind of help putting it together, whatever, feel
That would
free
be
to
awesome.
reach out to us.
Yeah,
You know, we
that would be
definitely want
awesome.
to see more people to do, you know, do that. And it's just been amazing having this conversation with you.
Thank you. Yeah,
We would definitely welcome you to come back again if you'd like to do another interview. Like, say
yeah. Thank
there's more
you. Yeah,
developments or something you'd like to, you know, discuss, you know, let us know. And thank you so much for this interview. It was absolutely eye-opening, mind-blowing, and just wonderful, wonderful, good, great energy here. And thank you so much, Indra, for
thank you. I'm
joining
so glad.
us.
Thank you, Tete. All
Oh,
right.
you're very welcome. You're very
Yeah.
welcome, and all the best to you.
Thank you. All the best to you too with your journal and everything. I will keep on supporting your journal as much as possible. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, we'll see you then, and
You.
you know, all the best and awesome to you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Awesome. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Yeah. See ya.
See you.